Okay, welcome now to the third and final annotated game featuring me, the younger version of me, playing what I like to think is very principled chess. And we're going to look at a game featuring the French defense. And now, normally, what would happen in a position like this, and what's probably the best, is for white to eventually play e5, either immediately or by playing knight c3 first, knight d2 first, and then playing e5. Fully securing the space advantage. But here's the thing, is that I have never liked these types of positions when they get blocked. For instance, you get, look, especially you reach something like this. Because, like, look, this bishop, it can't really go anywhere. And this bishop, like, no matter where it goes on this diagonal, it's just staring at pawns or just going to be captured. Like, the pieces can't move. If the pieces can't move, then you're kind of sitting there and you're maneuvering, and that's 40 moves later and you call it a draw. Like, this has never appealed to me. And I think it's important that I mention this because I am teaching principles which are timeless and they apply throughout all chess. But I also want to share my own idiosyncrasies and my own biases when it comes to chess, just so that way you can be aware of that as you're watching everything that I'm teaching. Because I don't do this advancing thing. I play e takes d5, d takes a. So now this bishop, again, which previously got stuck back here, is now got a complete and wide open diagonal. But then I play c4. This has always been my favorite way of playing. And the idea is instead of getting that blocked position, is that we're going to get something wide open. For example, I've played this position several times, which is the exact opposite of a block position. And look, we've got everything that we could possibly love and want. All of our pieces have open squares. We've got castling going on. We're going to have an open e file. Bishop staring down at f7. Virtually all the opening principles that I've been teaching, all the common traps, all the motifs, they exist in a position like this. And just for fun, here's a game that I played relatively recently, actually. It was a rapid game. My opponent played c5. I'm trying to challenge my center. I just develop. He takes. Do I recapture? No, I castle. Now you can see the problem. Wide open center. I've got two pieces developed. I've castle. He's got absolutely nothing. He plays bishop e7 to block the e-file. But what's hilarious is after queen goes to b3, there's no defense to f7. If he tries to block like this, obviously we're just going to take it. And then we win the pawn, and then he's in huge trouble. He tries to play f6, just that way there's not a pawn to win. But you go one more square forward instead, and you can actually win the knight. So I won a game in 9 moves using the common tactics, common ideas, uh, by opening the center up. So anyway, this is just sort of a tangent. Again, this is what I love. This is what I'm best at. This is what I'm trying to teach is this type of chess. And so again, I just want you to be aware of that sort of bias. Not every position is going to be naturally like this. But anyway, back towards the game. What happens? My opponent plays c6. Not a terrible move, just reinforced in the center. But notice the difference is that, well, I can easily develop my knight to c3. His knight can't. We're both fighting for the center, but I'm attacking him and he's kind of reacting. I'm active, he's passive. He plays bishop goes to b4, and now here is an interesting moment. Which piece do we develop? There's absolutely nothing wrong with knight f3. There's nothing wrong with bishop goes to d3. Playing, sorry, knight f3 might allow bishop goes to g4, but I probably have to put this bishop on e2. My bishop probably wants to be on d3 instead. And so instead, I play bishop goes to d3 first. Also notice that in the game, this is something I've seen quite often, my opponent plays queen e7 check. I don't want to exchange queens. I don't want to exchange queens for a couple reasons. One, I'm just ahead in time. Two, I don't like endgames, so that's a personal reason. But also three is that if I were to block with the queen, after the exchange, at some point black is going to take here. Let's just do it right now. And we can see that I've got a isolated pawn, a pawn that cannot be protected by other pawns. I have not gone to the strategic ideas or concepts in this course very often. I've been focusing on the opening principles. But queens are exchanged, pieces are going to be exchanged. This is a weakness. In general, pawn weaknesses are the worst during endgame. So the more the pieces get traded, the more pawn weaknesses like this matter. And so I don't want to trade. I want to instead play knight goes to e2. This is the best way to develop my pieces. Now, yes, this knight would probably rather be on f3 instead, but even on e2, it's still developed. It's still good. And if my opponent tries to do anything like bishop goes to g4, now I can hit it back. And if I'm going to be perfectly honest, again, one of my own biases, my own idiosyncrasies, I just really like this type of formation, especially with these pawns here. It works really, really well. I've had really good experience with it. Like this game I'm about to show you. Black develops, I castle. Oh, look at this. E-file looking straight down. He's got to be very careful. He plays bishop goes to e6. Inaccurate move. I think it makes a lot of sense because, again, it's blocking the e-file, and he wants to take on c4. That's the threat now. But I'm focusing on the e-file. I don't want to just exchange and give him a good square on d5. No, I play the best move, knight f4. Now, again, Smithy, aren't you moving a piece twice in the opening? It's like, yes, but again, look what I'm doing here. I'm challenging this. And I'm trying to use the open e-file. And I've actually got 3 pieces developed, and I've castled. He has 3 pieces developed. He hasn't castled. He moved his queen out early. And so this is giving me permission, to look for something beyond simple development. Again, not that there's anything really wrong with something like bishop goes to g5, but knight f4 is the best way to challenge black's particular setup. Black takes on c4. I take on e6. And now here's the problem. If you were to take here, I take here. With check, I can come back to f5. I'm going to win this pawn. E-file's coming up. Black's just toast. If he brings his king there, I might even just go bishop goes to h6. Oh, terrible, terrible, terrible. So we can't do that. So that means he has to recapture here. I recapture here. And we see the problem now? Sure, I have a weakness. He's got a pawn weakness. And unfortunately for him, it's staring right at his king. What does he do? My opponent panics. He takes my knight. He's trying to exchange pieces because he feels the pressure coming up. If you remember, there was a previous model game in which Black took on c3 voluntarily, and that opened up this diagonal for this bishop. Notice how, for example, let's say gave Black a different move. Let's say he castled, and then I were to play a3, and he takes. Now the bishop can't go there because the pawn's there, obviously. So by capturing deliberately, without me coercing it, this diagonal is open. Let's see if that matters. Oh, he plays b5. Okay. So again, the idea of my opponent panicking, I think that's quite clear. He rushed to trade a piece. He plays a lashing out with a pawn move. What do you do? Again, I'm hoping at this point the ideas are really sinking in. Let's not play the automatic move. Let's automatically retreat the bishop. Let's ask, is there something better? So our opponent hasn't castled. He's trading pieces for no reason. Lots of pawn moves. Is there something else? And the thing that I hopefully pointed out earlier is this e-file. Can we take advantage? Bishop takes e6. With hopefully a pretty obvious idea is after he were to recapture, we're going to play rook goes to e1, pinning the queen. Now, it's not the end of the world. He can bring the knight in, but I'm going to bring the queen out. I'm going to recapture. He's in a heck of a lot of trouble. It looks like he's not going to be a castle. He's just going to be losing in this position. So, I can take on e6. He can't recapture. What does he do? He would love to castle, but he can't, right? Because my bishop is cutting it off. It's really hard to give a good move for black. He plays knight a6, which is probably not the best move. But maybe knight goes to d7, so we can try to castle this way. But, my moves are easy. Rook e1, let's use that file. What on earth do you do? He tries to get his king off that diagonal, but I hope you notice something. Sure, it's off of, the open e file, but now it's on the diagonal that was so nicely opened up. So I bring my bishop out of the way, open the attack against his king. He wants to keep the queen on this diagonal. No, sir, I'm pushing it off. Bishop comes in. And now, what do you do? If he moves the king, either square doesn't really matter. He's right onto this discovery. Loses the queen. Check. It's probably even checkmate pretty soon afterwards. So that doesn't work. So after bishop goes to a3, he has to try and block the diagonal. And now here, I ended up taking the pawn, which is unnecessary. There's a strange visual, almost an illusion going on here, is I didn't want black to play c4 and block my bishop out of the way. But of course, he can't play c4 because it's pinned. But I was overpowered by, again, the illusion there that the pawn could move, and so I just took it. There was no need to do that. There was no rush. Simply playing queen f3, hitting this rook, threatening things over here, having this guy come over and take this is extraordinarily powerful. Of course, just taking the knight is also extraordinarily powerful. After take, though, I then play queen goes to f3. Again, I don't have to worry about my rook because it's still pinned. This rook's attacked. All my pieces are coordinated. Everything is just working out absolutely perfectly. He ends up playing rook goes to e8, and this allows a nice pretty finish. Rook takes, the only move, I'm able to recapture, then that's checkmate. See the power of these bishops? And isn't this just so much more fun than playing a block position where none of the pieces can move? Again, I want to share the biases, but the reason I have this bias is because when you play like this, you get games like this that just feel amazing. What happened here? So obviously, I made a stylistic choice. Again, stylistic. This isn't a chess truth, but playing the idea of exchanging pawns in the center and then pushing so that way we can get these open lines. It's allowing you to use these opening principles and these common tactics the most, right? It's giving you the most chance. What was my opponent's mistake? Main mistake, he brought the queen out early. Okay, he developed. He developed. But I think the king in the center is a real problem. And really, that queen out early, that's giving him a lot of trouble on the e-file. He tries to block the e-file. Makes sense. But I find the most accurate way to punish it. And then he starts panicking. And again, this is why I wanted to share these games, because you're probably going to get against opponents that panic when they feel pressure like this. They exchange randomly. They lash out with pawns. And here, if you can just take a moment to look for tactics, you find something like now the game is essentially over. We can see here he's stuck doing terrible things. I've got all my pieces out, and there's a pretty combo in just a few moves later. So that's the power of thinking like this. So I hope that was helpful. I hope you enjoyed this little foray into my games. I hope you found them pretty, but again, most importantly, I hope you're able to learn from them, to take the ideas and then apply them to your own games. The more model games you look at like this, that feature the same themes, the more it gets ingrained, and the more likely it is that when you reach your hand out to find a move, yeah, your brain, the first thing it's going to be focusing on are games like this because you're absorbing all those patterns. So after this, we're going to start looking at games from, again, Masters again. So hope you enjoy that. Hope you like that. We're almost halfway through. So thanks very much, everyone. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Bye for now.